The clatter of coffee cups and the hiss of the espresso machine filled the air, but Emma barely noticed. Her heart pounded louder than the morning rush at Brood Awakening, the cozy San Francisco cafe where she'd worked for 3 years. She was 28, still scraping by on tips and dreams of something more, but today felt different. Today she was late for her first blind date in years, set up by her meddling best friend Jess. Table 7 Emma, Jess had texted. Don't screw this up. She's perfect for you. Emma smoothed her apron, her palms sweaty. She scanned the cafe, her hazel eyes darting past hipsters and laptop nomads. Table 7 was near the window, bathed in the golden glow of a California sunrise. A woman sat there alone, her posture sharp yet somehow vulnerable. She wore a tailored blazer, her dark hair pulled into a sleek bun, and her fingers tapped nervously on a coffee mug. Emma's breath caught. This is her. She approached, her sneakers squeaking on the hardwood floor. Hi, I'm Emma, she said, her voice cracking just enough to betray her nerves. You must be Claire? The woman looked up, her green eyes piercing yet soft, like a forest after rain. Claire, yeah, she said, her lips curling into a hesitant smile. You're late. Emma flushed, sliding into the chair. Sorry, I got caught up with a latte art disaster. Occupational hazard. She gestured at her apron, speckled with coffee stains. Claire's laugh was low, almost musical, and it sent a shiver down Emma's spine. I'll forgive you, Claire said, leaning forward. But only if you tell me why you're on a blind date in the first place. You don't seem like someone who needs help finding a spark. Emma's heart skipped. Was that flirting? She tucked a strand of brown hair behind her ear, suddenly hyper-aware of the faint scent of vanilla syrup clinging to her skin. Oh, I'm a mess, she admitted, her voice light but honest. Work life, the usual. My friend Jess thinks I'm hopeless. You. Claire's smile faltered just for a second. I don't do this often, she said, her voice quieter now. I'm usually too busy. But I figured why not take a chance? The air between them hummed, charged with possibility. Emma noticed the way Claire's fingers lingered on the mug, the slight tremor in her hand. She's nervous too, Emma thought, and it made her bold. Well, I'm glad you did, she said, her eyes locking with Claire's. For a moment the cafe faded, the clinking cups, the chatter, the hiss of steam. It was just them. But then Claire's phone buzzed, shattering the moment. She glanced at it, her face tightening. Sorry, work, she muttered, typing a quick reply. Emma caught a glimpse of the screen, something about a board meeting. Who is this woman? So what do you do? Emma asked, trying to keep the conversation alive. Claire hesitated, her eyes flickering with something unreadable. I work in tech, she said vaguely. Startups, investments, that kind of thing. Emma raised an eyebrow. Sounds intense. It is, Claire admitted, her voice dropping. Sometimes I wonder if it's worth it. All the hours, the pressure. She trailed off, her gaze drifting to the window where the city buzzed beyond. What about you? Barista life treating you okay? Emma laughed, but it was tinged with bitterness. It pays the bills. Barely. I used to want to be a painter, but life, you know? Dreams get shelved. Claire's eyes softened. You shouldn't shelve them, she said quietly. Not if they matter. Emma felt a pang in her chest. No one had said that to her in years. She opened her mouth to respond, but a woman in a red dress stormed up to the table, her heels clicking furiously. Claire, she snapped, her voice sharp enough to cut glass. I've been waiting at table 9 for 20 minutes. Who the hell is this? Emma froze. Claire's face drained of color. Wait, you're Sarah? Claire stammered, her eyes darting between the woman and Emma. I thought. Oh my God. Emma whispered, her stomach dropping. I sat at the wrong table. The woman, Sarah, crossed her arms, her glare venomous. So you're not my date? She asked Emma, then turned to Claire. And you just let some random woman flirt with you? I didn't, Claire started, but Emma was already standing, her chair scraping loudly against the floor. Her face burned with embarrassment, her heart racing with something else. Disappointment? Betrayal? She didn't know Claire, not really, but those few minutes had felt real. "I'm so sorry," Emma mumbled, grabbing her bag. "I'll just go." "Emma, wait." Claire reached out, her voice desperate, but Emma was already halfway to the door, the scent of coffee and regret thick in the air. She didn't look back. Outside, the San Francisco morning was crisp, the fog just beginning to lift. Emma leaned against the cafe's brick wall, her breath shaky. Stupid, stupid, stupid. She'd sat at the wrong table, poured her heart out to a stranger, and now she felt like an idiot. But Claire's voice, low, earnest, kind, lingered in her mind. Those green eyes. That laugh. Her phone buzzed. A text from Jess. "How's it going with Claire?" Emma groaned, typing back, "Disaster. Wrong table. Don't ask." But as she slipped her phone into her pocket, she heard footsteps behind her. "Emma!" Claire's voice, breathless, cut through the morning air. Emma turned, her heart lurching. Claire stood there, her blazer slightly askew, her face flushed with urgency. "I'm so sorry," Claire said, her words tumbling out. "I didn't know you weren't. I thought you were my date. But then you were you, and I didn't want it to end." Emma blinked, her chest tightening. "You're with Sarah now, right? Your actual date." Claire shook her head, stepping closer. "Sarah's not you," she said simply. "I don't know what this is, Emma, but I felt something. Didn't you?" The question hung between them, heavy with possibility. Emma's pulse raced, her mind screaming to run, to protect herself from whatever this was. But her heart, her stubborn, hopeful heart, kept her rooted to the spot. The city hummed around them, the distant clang of a cable car, the soft rustle of leaves in the breeze. And in that moment Emma knew, this was no mistake. This was the beginning. Emma stood frozen on the sidewalk, the San Francisco breeze tugging at her hair. Claire's words echoed in her ears. "I felt something. Didn't you?" The question was a spark, igniting a mix of fear and longing in her chest. She wanted to say yes, to admit that those fleeting minutes at the wrong table had stirred something she hadn't felt in years. But doubt clawed at her. Claire was a stranger, a tech hotshot, probably loaded, probably used to getting what she wanted. Emma was just Emma, a barista with paint-stained dreams and a bank account that barely scraped by. "I don't even know you," Emma said finally, her voice barely above a whisper. The words felt like a shield, but they trembled with uncertainty. Claire stepped closer, her green eyes searching Emma's face. "Then let me change that," she said, her voice soft but firm, like she was making a promise. "Give me a chance to know you, Emma. One coffee. No blind dates, no mix-ups. Just us." Emma's breath hitched. The sincerity in Claire's voice was disarming, cutting through the noise of her insecurities. She glanced back at the cafe, where Sarah was probably still fuming at table 9. "What about your date?" she asked, half expecting Claire to backtrack. Claire's lips quirked into a wry smile. "Sarah's already gone. I told her it wasn't going to work. She didn't take it well, but," she shrugged, her blazer shifting slightly, revealing a glimpse of a delicate silver necklace against her collarbone. "I'd rather be here. With you." Emma's heart did a traitorous flip. She wanted to believe this was real, but the gap between them felt vast. Claire's polished confidence, her world of board meetings and startups, versus Emma's messy apron and unpaid bills. Still, something in Claire's gaze held her, like a tether she didn't want to break. "Okay," Emma said at last, her voice steadier now. "One coffee. But you're buying." Claire's face lit up, her smile bright enough to rival the morning sun. "Deal." They didn't go back to Brood Awakening. Instead, Claire led Emma down a winding street to a tiny hole-in-the-wall diner, the kind with chipped mugs and a jukebox that played Sinatra on repeat. The air smelled of bacon grease and maple syrup, and the hum of conversation felt like a warm blanket. They slid into a booth, the vinyl creaking under them, and ordered 2 black coffees. The simplicity of it grounded Emma, made her feel like maybe this wasn't a dream she'd wake up from. "So," Emma said, stirring a sugar packet into her coffee, the spoon clinking softly against the ceramic. You're in tech. That's vague. Spill the details. Claire laughed, a low throaty sound that made Emma's stomach flutter. Fair enough. I'm the CEO of a startup called Lumora. We build AI for sustainable energy solutions. It's a lot. Long hours, endless meetings, investors breathing down my neck. She sighed, her fingers tracing the rim of her mug. Sometimes I forget why I started. Emma tilted her head, studying Claire. The polished exterior was still there, but now she saw the cracks, tired lines around her eyes, the way her shoulders slumped just slightly. Sounds lonely, Emma said, the words slipping out before she could stop them. Claire's gaze snapped to hers, surprised but not offended. It can be, she admitted. I've got people around me all the time, but it's not real. Not like this. Her hand gestured between them, and Emma felt a rush of warmth. What about you? Claire asked, leaning forward. You said you wanted to be a painter. What kind? Emma hesitated, her fingers tightening around her mug. She hadn't talked about her art in years. Not since her dreams got buried under rent and reality. Abstract stuff mostly, she said. Big canvases, bold colors. I used to love capturing feelings, you know? Like the way a song hits you, or the smell of rain. She laughed, self-conscious. Sounds cheesy, I know. It's not, Claire said firmly, her eyes intense. It's beautiful. You should paint again. Emma's throat tightened. It's not that simple. Supplies are expensive and time. She trailed off, the weight of her excuses heavy in the air. Claire reached across the table, her hand hovering near Emma's but not quite touching. If it's what you love, it's worth it. Trust me, I know what it's like to lose yourself in work and forget who you are. The words hit Emma harder than she expected. She looked down at Claire's hand so close to hers, and felt a pull she couldn't ignore. Why do you care? She asked, her voice barely audible over the jukebox's croon. Claire's expression softened, vulnerable in a way that made Emma's heart ache. Because when I saw you all flustered and real, I felt awake. For the first time in a long time. Emma's breath caught. The diner faded, the clatter of plates, the hum of voices, the faint crackle of the jukebox. It was just Claire, her green eyes holding a promise Emma wasn't sure she could trust. But God, she wanted to. Their coffees grew cold as they talked, the hours slipping by unnoticed. Claire told stories of late-night coding sessions and high-stakes pitches, her passion for her work shining through despite the exhaustion. Emma shared memories of her childhood in Oakland, of sneaking into art galleries and dreaming of her own work hanging on those walls. They laughed, they teased, and with every word, the space between them shrank. But as the sun climbed higher, Claire's phone buzzed again. She ignored it at first, but the third time her face tightened. I'm sorry, she said, glancing at the screen. I have to take this. It's my CEO. We're in the middle of a funding round and… Go, Emma said, forcing a smile. I get it. Duty calls. Claire hesitated, her fingers brushing Emma's wrist, sending a jolt through her. This isn't over, she said, her voice low and certain. I'll find you, Emma. Emma watched her step outside, her silhouette sharp against the diner's foggy windows. She wanted to believe Claire, but doubt crept in again. This was a fairy tale, and fairy tales didn't happen to people like her. Did they? Emma sat alone in the diner, the ghost of Claire's touch still lingering on her wrist. The jukebox had switched to a mournful Billie Holiday tune, and the air felt heavier now, thick with the scent of burnt toast and her own swirling thoughts. She traced the rim of her coffee mug, the ceramic cool against her fingertips. What am I doing? She'd let herself get swept up in a moment, in a woman who was probably out of her league. Claire was a CEO, for God's sake. Emma was just a barista who hadn't picked up a paintbrush in years. Her phone buzzed, snapping her out of her spiral. Another text from Jess. Wrong table. Spill. Now. Emma sighed, her thumbs hovering over the screen. How could she explain this? The spark, the embarrassment, the way Claire's eyes had made her feel seen for the first time in forever? She typed a quick reply, "I'll tell you later. It's complicated," and shoved her phone into her pocket. Outside, Claire was still on her call, pacing the sidewalk. Her blazer caught the midday sun, and even from a distance, Emma could see the tension in her shoulders. Part of her wanted to walk out there, to interrupt and demand Claire stay. But the other part, the louder, safer part, told her to leave before she got hurt. She paid for her coffee, leaving a crumpled tip on the table, and slipped out the side door. The San Francisco streets were alive now, the clang of cable cars mixing with the chatter of tourists. Emma pulled her jacket tighter, the chill of doubt settling into her bones. She'll forget me by tomorrow, she thought. Just another fleeting moment for someone like her. Back at her tiny apartment in Oakland, Emma collapsed onto her couch, the springs creaking under her weight. The room smelled faintly of turpentine, a reminder of the half-finished canvases stacked in the corner. She hadn't touched them in months, maybe years. They were relics of a version of herself she barely recognized. A dreamer who believed in possibilities. Her phone buzzed again, but it wasn't just this time. An unknown number. Her heart stuttered as she opened the message. "Hey, it's Claire. Got your number from the cafe. I meant what I said. Can we meet again? Tomorrow?" Emma stared at the screen, her pulse racing. Claire had tracked her down. The thought was thrilling and terrifying all at once. She typed a reply, deleted it, then typed again, "Tomorrow's good. Same diner, 8 a.m.? Her finger hovered over the send button. Fear and hope warring in her chest. She hit send before she could overthink it. The next morning, Emma arrived at the diner early, her stomach in knots. She'd swapped her apron for a faded denim jacket and her best jeans, but she still felt underdressed next to the memory of Claire's polished blazer. The diner was quieter today, the air filled with the soft clink of silverware and the murmur of early risers. She slid into the same booth, her fingers drumming on the table. Claire walked in at exactly 8 o'clock, her presence commanding the room. She wore a navy sweater today, softer than the blazer but no less striking. Her eyes found Emma's immediately, and her smile was like a sunrise, warm and disarming. "You came," Claire said, sliding into the booth. "I wasn't sure you would." Emma shrugged, trying to play it cool despite the butterflies in her stomach. "Figured I owed you a second chance after I crashed your date." Claire laughed, the sound rich and genuine. "Best crash I've ever had," she said, her gaze steady. "I couldn't stop thinking about you yesterday. You're different." Emma's cheeks warmed. "Different how?" "Real," Claire said simply. "You don't pretend to be something you're not. Most people I meet are all polish and no substance. But you," she leaned forward, her voice dropping. "You're like one of your paintings. Bold, messy, beautiful." Emma's breath caught, her heart pounding so loudly she was sure Claire could hear it. No one had ever described her like that. She wanted to brush it off, to laugh and change the subject, but Claire's eyes held her, daring her to believe it. They ordered breakfast, pancakes for Emma, an omelette for Claire, and fell into an easy rhythm. Claire talked about her childhood in Seattle, how she coded her first app at 16 and never looked back. Emma shared stories of sneaking into art classes at the community center, her fingers always stained with paint. The conversation flowed like the coffee, warm and endless, until Claire's phone buzzed again. This time she silenced it without looking. "No interruptions today," she said, her tone firm. "I'm here. With you." Emma's heart swelled but doubt lingered. "Claire, you're you. And I'm just," she gestured at herself, the worn jacket, the chipped nail polish. "We're from different worlds." Claire's expression hardened, not with anger but with determination. "Don't do that," she said. "Don't make yourself small. You're not just anything, Emma. I see you." The words hit like a tidal wave, washing away some of Emma's walls. She reached across the table, her hand brushing Claire's, and this time neither pulled away. Their fingers intertwined, tentative but electric, and the diner faded into a blur of sound and light. But as they left the diner hand in hand, Emma caught a glimpse of a sleek black car parked across the street. A man in a suit stood beside it, His eyes locked on Claire, his expression unreadable. Claire tensed, her grip on Emma's hand tightening. "That's my driver," she said quietly. "I didn't want you to see this yet." Emma's stomach twisted. "Your driver." The pieces clicked together. Claire wasn't just successful. She was rich. Probably richer than Emma could imagine. The gap between them widened again, and Emma felt like she was standing on the edge of a cliff, unsure if she should jump. Emma's hand slipped from Claire's as they stood on the sidewalk, the hum of San Francisco's morning traffic filling the silence. The black car gleamed under the sun, its tinted windows hiding whatever world Claire truly belonged to. The driver, a broad-shouldered man in a crisp suit, gave a curt nod, his eyes flicking to Emma with a mix of curiosity and indifference. She felt small, exposed like a smudge on Claire's polished life. "Your driver," Emma repeated, her voice flat. "So what, you're some kind of tech royalty?" Claire's laugh was nervous, her fingers tugging at the hem of her sweater. "Not royalty," she said. "Just successful. I didn't want to lead with that. People get weird when they know." Emma crossed her arms, the denim of her jacket rough against her skin. "Weird how?" "Like, wow, you're way out of my league weird." The words came out sharper than she meant, laced with the sting of her own insecurities. Claire's face fell, her green eyes clouding with something. Emma's chest tightened. She wanted to believe Claire, to hold on to the warmth of their breakfast, the way their hands had fit together like pieces of a puzzle. But the car, the driver— "You're not nobody," Claire snapped, her voice sharp enough to make Emma flinch. She softened immediately, stepping closer, her hand hovering near Emma's arm. "You're the first person in years who's made me feel like I can breathe. Please don't run." The plea hung between them, raw and heavy. Emma's throat burned, her eyes stinging with unshed tears. She wanted to stay, to lean into Claire's warmth, but fear was a loud drum in her head. "I need time," she said finally, stepping back. Claire nodded, her jaw tight, but her eyes were steady. "Okay. But I'm not giving up on you, Emma." She reached into her pocket, pulled out a business card, and pressed it into Emma's hand. Her fingers lingered, warm and steady. "Call me when—" Emma watched as Claire climbed into the car, the door closing with a soft thunk. The vehicle pulled away, leaving only the faint scent of exhaust and the weight of the card in Emma's hand. She looked down at it. Claire Bennett's Elamar. No frills, just power. Back at her apartment, Emma paced the cramped living room, the floorboards creaking under her steps. The air smelled faintly of paint and dust, a reminder of the life she'd put on hold. She pulled out Claire's card, running her thumb over the embossed letters. Who is she, really? A Google search answered that question in seconds. Claire Bennett, 29, tech prodigy, youngest female CEO on Forbes 30 Under 30. Her startup Lumora was valued at $1.2 billion. Billion. The number made Emma's head spin. She sank onto the couch, her phone still glowing with Claire's face. A poised headshot from some tech conference. She looked untouchable, a far cry from the woman who'd laughed over pancakes and— On impulse, Emma grabbed a canvas and dragged it to the center of the room. She rummaged through her closet, pulling out brushes and tubes of paint that smelled sharp and familiar. Her hands shook as she squeezed crimson onto a palette, the color vivid against the dim light. She didn't know what she was painting yet, but as the brush met the canvas, something inside her cracked open. Each stroke was a release, a burst of everything she'd been holding back: fear, hope, the ache of wanting Claire. Hours later, her phone buzzed, pulling her from her trance. Paint speckled her hands, her jeans, her face. It was Jess, demanding details, but Emma ignored it. Instead, she texted Claire. "I'm scared, but I'm in. Dinner tomorrow?" Her heart raced as she hit send, the paintbrush still clutched in her hand. Claire's reply was instant. "Name the place. I'm there." The next evening, Emma chose a small Italian restaurant in North Beach, the kind with checkered tablecloths and candles dripping wax. The air smelled of garlic and red wine, and the soft hum of conversation felt intimate, safe. Claire arrived in a simple black dress, her hair loose for the first time, cascading over her shoulders. She looked less like a CEO and more like Claire. Emma's Claire. You painted today, didn't you? Claire said as they sat down, her eyes catching the faint smudge of blue on Emma's knuckle. Emma laughed, surprised. How do you know? You've got this glow, Claire said, her voice warm. Like you're carrying a secret. Emma's cheeks flushed. I did. First time in forever. Felt good. Claire's smile was radiant. I want to see your work someday. If you'll let me. The words were a quiet promise, and Emma felt her walls crumbling further. They talked through dinner, their laughter mingling with the clink of wine glasses. But as dessert arrived, a shared tiramisu, Claire's expression shifted, her fingers tightening around her fork. There's something I need to tell you, Claire said, her voice low. About my life. It's complicated. And I don't want to scare you off. Emma's stomach nodded, but she leaned forward, her hand finding Claire's across the table. Tell me, she said, her voice steady despite the fear creeping in. I'm listening. The candlelight flickered, casting shadows across Claire's face as she set her fork down. The restaurant's hum of laughter and clinking glasses faded into a distant buzz. Emma's hand rested on hers, warm and steady, but her heart raced with unease. Claire's words, it's complicated, hung heavy, like the scent of espresso lingering in the air. Emma braced herself, her fingers tightening slightly around Claire's. Complicated how? Emma asked, her voice soft but firm, cutting through the murmur of the restaurant. The taste of tiramisu lingered on her tongue, sweet and bitter. Claire exhaled, a shaky breath that betrayed her polished exterior. My life, it's not just board meetings and startups, she said, her green eyes fixed on the tablecloth. There's pressure, expectations, people who want pieces of me, investors, the media, even my family. I've spent years building L'Amoura, but it's cost me everything else. She looked up, her gaze raw. I haven't let anyone in. Not really. Until you. Emma's chest ached. She saw the weight Claire carried, the loneliness beneath her success. But there was more. Claire's hesitation told her so. What aren't you saying? Emma pressed, her voice gentle but insistent. Claire's fingers twitched under Emma's, her nails catching the dim light. My family, she said finally. They're traditional. Old money Seattle elite. They don't know I'm gay. They think I'm too focused on work to date, and I've let them believe it because it's easier than the truth. She laughed, a hollow sound. If they knew about you, about us, it wouldn't be pretty. Emma's stomach twisted. She'd faced her own battles, coming out to her mom at 19, the awkward silences at family dinners, but Claire's world was different. High stakes, high society. So what, you're just gonna hide forever? Emma asked, her voice sharper than she intended. Hide me? No, Claire said quickly, her hand turning to grip Emma's. That's not what I want. I'm just scared. I've spent so long keeping this part of me locked away. But with you, I don't want to hide anymore. Her voice cracked, and Emma saw the vulnerability she'd glimpsed that first morning in the cafe. I don't know how to do this, Emma, but I want to try. The confession hung between them, fragile and electric. Emma's heart pounded, torn between fear and a fierce, stubborn hope. She leaned forward, her voice low. I'm scared too, Claire. I'm nobody in your world. But I'm here. And I'm not going anywhere unless you push me away. Claire's eyes glistened, a tear catching the candlelight. She squeezed Emma's hand, her thumb brushing over Emma's knuckles. I'm not pushing you away, she whispered. I promise. They left the restaurant hand in hand, the cool night air wrapping around them like a secret. The streets of North Beach were alive with laughter and the faint strum of a street musician's guitar. Emma felt lighter, like the weight of Claire's truth had somehow made her own fears smaller. But as they walked toward Claire's car, a sleek SUV this time, Emma's doubts crept back. Can this really work? Claire stopped suddenly, turning to face Emma under a flickering streetlight. Come to my place, she said, her voice soft but certain. Not for anything big, just to talk. To be together. Emma hesitated, the hum of the city filling the pause. Her apartment was safe, familiar. But Claire's world was a leap into the unknown. Still, the pull of Claire's gaze was stronger than her fear. "Okay," she said, a small smile tugging at her lips. "But no drivers this time. We're taking the bus." Claire laughed, the sound bright and unguarded. "You're gonna make me ride public transit?" "Yup," Emma said, grinning. "Welcome to my world." Claire's penthouse was nothing like Emma expected. Perched high above the city, it was sleek but warm, with floor-to-ceiling windows that framed the glittering San Francisco skyline. The air smelled faintly of lavender, and bookshelves lined one wall, stuffed with novels and tech journals. A single abstract painting hung above the couch, bold reds and blues that reminded Emma of her own work. "You live here?" Emma asked, her sneakers sinking into the plush rug. She felt out of place, like a smudge on a perfect canvas. Claire shrugged, kicking off her shoes. "It's home. For now." She gestured to the couch, her movements less polished, more human. "Want a drink? I've got wine, whiskey, or terrible instant coffee." Emma laughed, the tension easing. "Wine's good." They sat on the couch, glasses of red wine in hand, the city lights casting a soft glow. Claire talked about her childhood, the pressure to be perfect, the way she buried her truth to please her parents. Emma listened, her heart aching for the girl Claire had been. In return, Emma shared her own story. Losing her dad young, her mom's quiet acceptance of her queerness, the way art had been her escape until life got in the way. As the night deepened, their voices grew softer, their bodies closer. Emma's hand found Claire's again, their fingers intertwining like they were made for it. "I painted yesterday," Emma admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "Because of you. You made me feel like I could be that person again." Claire's breath hitched, her eyes searching Emma's. "I want to see you like that," she said. "The real you. All of you." Emma's heart raced, the air between them thick with unspoken promises. She leaned in, her lips brushing Claire's, tentative at first, then deeper, hungrier. The kiss tasted of wine and longing, and for a moment the world outside didn't exist. No wealth, no expectations, just them. But as they pulled apart, breathless, Claire's phone buzzed on the coffee table. The screen lit up with the name Mom. Claire froze, her face paling. Emma's stomach sank. The real world was knocking, and it wasn't going to wait. The phone's buzz cut through the quiet, a sharp reminder of the world beyond Claire's penthouse. Emma's lips still tingled from their kiss, her heart pounding with the thrill of it, but Claire's face was a mask of tension. The screen glowed with Mom, and the air grew heavy, the lavender scent now cloying. Emma pulled back, her fingers slipping from Claire's, the warmth between them cooling. "You gonna answer that?" Emma asked, her voice soft but edged with unease. The city lights glittered through the windows, indifferent to the shift in the room. Claire stared at the phone, her jaw tight. "I shouldn't," she said, but her hand hovered over it, betraying her hesitation. "It's late. She never calls this late unless it's important." Emma nodded, though her stomach churned. "Go ahead. I'm not going anywhere." Claire gave her a grateful look, then answered, her voice shifting into something polished, controlled. "Hey Mom. Everything okay?" She stood, pacing toward the window, her silhouette sharp against the skyline. Emma caught fragments of the conversation. Something about a family gala, expectations. "When are you settling down?" Claire's responses were clipped, her fingers gripping the phone like a lifeline. When she hung up, Claire didn't turn around right away. Her shoulders were stiff, her breath uneven. "Sorry," she said finally, her voice low. "Family stuff. Always complicated." Emma stood, crossing the room to stand beside her. The city sprawled below, a sea of lights that felt both vast and isolating. "You don't have to apologize," she said, her hand brushing Claire's arm. "But you don't have to carry it alone either." Claire turned, her green eyes glistening with unshed tears. "You don't get it, Emma. My family, they're not like yours. They don't just accept things. If I tell them about us, about who I am," she swallowed, her voice breaking, "they could cut me off. Not just emotionally, financially. limerence tied to their investments. I could lose everything I've built. Emma's heart sank, the weight of Claire's world pressing down on her. She'd known they were different, but this was a chasm: money, power, a family that could wield both like weapons. So what do we do? Emma asked, her voice steady despite the fear clawing at her. Hide? Pretend? No, Claire said fiercely, turning to face her fully. I don't want to pretend with you. But I need time, Emma, to figure out how to do this without losing everything. Emma nodded, though doubt gnawed at her. She wanted to be enough for Claire to be worth the risk, but the stakes felt impossibly high. Okay, she said softly. But don't shut me out. Promise me that. Claire's hand found hers, their fingers lacing together. I promise, she whispered and pulled Emma into a hug. The embrace was warm, desperate, and Emma felt Claire's heartbeat against her own, fast and unsteady. The next few weeks were a whirlwind. Emma and Claire stole moments when they could. Late-night walks along the Embarcadero, quiet mornings in the diner, stolen kisses in Claire's penthouse. Emma painted more, her canvases coming alive with bold strokes of color, each one a piece of the hope Claire had reignited in her. Claire, in turn, seemed lighter with Emma, her guarded edges softening. But the shadow of Claire's family loomed, a silent threat neither could ignore. One evening, Emma invited Claire to her apartment, a bold move that made her stomach flip. The space was cramped, the air thick with the scent of paint and old wood, but it was hers. She'd spent the day cleaning, hiding the mess of her life under neatly stacked canvases and a fresh tablecloth. Claire arrived with a bottle of wine, her smile nervous but warm. This is you, Claire said, her eyes roaming over the cluttered bookshelves and vibrant paintings. She paused at one canvas, a swirl of blues and golds that seemed to pulse with emotion. This is incredible, Emma. You're incredible. Emma blushed, her heart swelling. It's just me trying to figure things out. You inspired this one, you know? Claire's eyes softened and she stepped closer, her fingers brushing Emma's cheek. You have no idea what you do to me, she murmured and kissed her slow and deep. The world melted away, the creak of the floorboards, the hum of the city outside. It was just them tangled in each other, hearts racing. But as they lay on Emma's couch later, wine glasses empty, Claire's phone buzzed again. She ignored it, but the sound was a reminder of the life waiting to pull her back. Emma felt it too, the ticking clock, the inevitable collision of their worlds. The next day, Claire called, her voice tight with urgency. My parents are coming to the city, she said. They want me to attend their gala. It's a big deal, investors, board members, the whole circus. I want you there, Emma. As my date. Emma's breath caught. A gala. Claire's world on full display. Are you sure? She asked, her voice trembling. Your family, your company, what if they? I don't care, Claire cut in, her tone fierce. I'm tired of hiding. I want them to see you. To see us. Emma's heart soared, but fear followed close behind. This wasn't just a date, it was a declaration, one that could change everything. She thought of her own life, her small apartment, her dreams that felt so fragile next to Claire's empire. Could she step into that world? Could they survive it? Okay, Emma said, her voice steady despite the storm in her chest. I'm in. Claire's relief was palpable even through the phone. Thank you, she whispered. I'll send you a dress. Something perfect. Emma laughed, nerves bubbling up. You better not make me look like a tech bro. Claire's chuckle was warm, grounding. Never. You're gonna steal the show, Emma. As she hung up, Emma stood in her apartment surrounded by her paintings. The air smelled of turpentine and possibility, but the weight of the gala loomed. She was about to walk into Claire's world, and there was no turning back. The dress arrived in a sleek black box, tied with a satin ribbon. Emma lifted the lid, her breath catching at the sight of deep emerald fabric, soft and flowing. Nothing like the stiff gown she'd imagined. The note inside was in Claire's neat handwriting. For you. Be yourself. That's enough. Emma ran her fingers over the silk, her heart a tangle of nerves and excitement. Tonight was the gala, and she was stepping into Claire's world, glitz, power, and a family who didn't know their daughter was in love with a woman. She stood in front of her cracked bathroom mirror, the dress hugging her curves in a way that made her feel both powerful and exposed. Her brown hair was swept into a loose bun, a few strands framing her face. She barely recognized herself, but the smudge of paint on her thumb grounded her. This is still me, she thought, though her pulse raced as she slipped on the heels Claire had sent. Sleek, not too high, perfect. The gala was at a downtown hotel, its ballroom dripping with chandeliers and the scent of roses. Emma stepped out of the cab, the night air cool against her skin, the hum of the city mixing with the distant thrum of music. Claire waited at the entrance, stunning in a tailored black gown, her hair loose and catching the light. Her green eyes lit up when she saw Emma, and for a moment the world felt small, just the two of them. "You look," Claire's voice caught, her hand reaching for Emma's. "God, Emma, you're breathtaking." Emma blushed, her fingers intertwining with Claire's. "You're not so bad yourself," she teased, but her voice shook. The weight of the night pressed down, the investors, the expectations, Claire's family. "You sure about this?" Claire's grip tightened, her jaw set. "I've never been surer of anything." They stepped into the ballroom, a sea of suits and sparkling dresses. The air buzzed with laughter, clinking glasses, and the soft strains of a string quartet. Emma felt eyes on them, curious and sharp, but Claire's hand in hers was an anchor. She led Emma through the crowd, introducing her to colleagues with a quiet pride that made Emma's heart swell. "This is Emma," Claire said each time, her voice steady. "She's an artist. And she's with me." The word artist hit Emma like a spark. She hadn't called herself that in years, but hearing it from Claire made it feel true. Still, the room felt like a tightrope, every smile a potential judgment. Then Claire stiffened beside her, her gaze locking on a couple approaching. Her parents, Emma realized, their presence commanding even in the crowded room. Claire's mother was elegant, her silver hair swept up, her eyes cool and assessing. Her father, broad-shouldered and stern, carried the weight of old money. "Claire, darling," her mother said, her voice smooth but edged. "You didn't mention you were bringing a guest." Claire's hand tightened on Emma's, her voice steady but strained. "Mom, Dad, this is Emma. My girlfriend." The word landed like a thunderclap. Emma's pulse roared in her ears, but she held her ground, meeting their gazes. Claire's mother's smile faltered, her eyes flicking to Emma's dress, her calloused hands. "Girlfriend?" she repeated, the word sharp. "Claire, this is unexpected." Claire's father's jaw tightened. "We need to talk. Privately." Claire didn't budge. "Anything you have to say, you can say in front of Emma." The air crackled with tension, the quartet's music a faint backdrop to the storm brewing. Emma's heart pounded, but she squeezed Claire's hand, silently urging her to keep going. Claire's voice was steel now. "I'm done hiding who I am. Emma's not just a guest. She's the woman I love." Emma's breath caught, the word love echoing in her chest. Claire's parents exchanged a glance, their silence deafening. Then her father spoke, his voice low and cold. "This is a mistake, Claire. You're risking everything, your reputation, L'Amoura, our family's legacy." "I'm risking it for something real," Claire shot back, her voice trembling with conviction. "I've spent my life trying to please you, but I'm done. I choose her." Emma's eyes burned, tears threatening to spill. She'd never felt so seen, so wanted. But Claire's mother stepped forward, her voice icy. "You'll regret this, Claire. You're throwing away everything we've given you." The words cut deep, and Emma saw the flicker of fear in Claire's eyes. But Claire stood taller, her hand never leaving Emma's. "If that's the price of being myself, I'll pay it." The room seemed to hold its breath, the crowd oblivious to the quiet war unfolding. Claire's parents turned and walked away, their footsteps sharp against the polished floor. Emma pulled Claire into a hug, her heart racing. "You didn't have to do that," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "Yes, I did," Claire murmured against her hair. "You're worth it." They left the gala soon after, the weight of the night heavy but liberating. Outside, the city was alive, the air cool and sharp with the scent of the bay. They walked in silence, their hands still clasped, the future uncertain but theirs to face together. Back at Emma's apartment, they collapsed onto the couch, the emerald dress pooling around Emma's legs. Claire's eyes were tired but bright, her fingers tracing patterns on Emma's palm. "I meant it," she said softly. "I love you." Emma's heart soared, the words a balm to her fears. "I love you too," she whispered and kissed her, the world falling away until it was just them, paint and promises, ready to build something new. The morning light filtered through Emma's apartment, soft and golden, painting the walls with warmth. The air smelled of coffee and turpentine, a mix of their worlds, Claire's sleek efficiency and Emma's messy creativity. They lay tangled on the couch, the emerald dress discarded on the floor, Claire's black gown draped over a chair. The events of the gala felt like a dream, but Claire's arm around Emma's waist was real, grounding, a quiet promise. Emma traced the curve of Claire's shoulder, her fingers lingering on the freckles she hadn't noticed before. "What happens now?" she asked, her voice hushed, as if speaking too loudly might shatter the moment. The city hummed outside, the distant wail of a siren blending with the soft creak of the apartment. Claire's eyes fluttered open, green and steady. "Now," she said, her voice soft but resolute. "We figure it out. Together." She propped herself up, her hair falling in loose waves. "My parents might cut me off. Lamora might take a hit. But I meant what I said last night, Emma. You're my choice." Emma's chest tightened, love and fear twisting together. "I don't want you to lose everything for me," she said, her voice raw. "Your company, your life. It's who you are." Claire shook her head, her hand finding Emma's. "Lumora's a part of me, but it's not all of me. I've been hiding for so long, Emma. You make me want to be whole." She leaned in, her lips brushing Emma's forehead. "Besides, I'm a CEO. I'm good at fighting battles." Emma laughed, the sound shaky but real. "You're stubborn, you know that?" "Takes one to know one," Claire teased, her smile bright. They kissed slow and warm, the kind of kiss that felt like a beginning. The weeks that followed were a storm. Claire's parents made good on their threats, pulling their investments from Lamora. The media caught wind of the gala, spinning headlines about the tech prodigy's scandalous love life. Claire faced her board, her voice steady as she defended her choices, but Emma saw the toll it took. The late nights, the tense calls, the way Claire's hands shook when she thought no one was watching. Emma, too, faced her own battles. She painted furiously, her apartment a riot of color, each canvas a piece of her heart. She started showing her work at local galleries, small venues that smelled of wine and ambition. Claire was there for every opening, her pride in Emma brighter than any spotlight. But doubt lingered. Emma wondered if she could ever match Claire's world, if she'd always feel like the barista who stumbled into a fairy tale. One evening they sat on Claire's penthouse balcony, the city sprawling below like a canvas of light. The air was crisp, carrying the salt of the bay. Claire sipped whiskey, her shoulders relaxed for the first time in weeks. "We got a new investor today," she said, her voice quiet but triumphant. "Lumora's safe. For now." Emma's heart lifted, but she saw the exhaustion in Claire's eyes. "You're incredible," she said, reaching for her hand. "But you don't have to do this alone. Let me in, Claire." Claire's smile was soft, vulnerable. "I'm trying," she admitted. "It's just new. Trusting someone this much." Emma nodded, her thumb brushing over Claire's knuckles. "I get it. But we're in this, right? No matter what." "No matter what," Claire echoed, her voice a vow. Months later, Emma's first solo gallery show was a quiet triumph. The venue was small, a converted warehouse in the Mission District, but it buzzed with energy. Her paintings lined the walls, bold and alive, each one a story of love, fear, and hope. Claire stood by her side, her hand never leaving Emma's, her pride palpable. The crowd was modest, local artists, friends, a few curious collectors, but to Emma it felt like the world. As the night wound down, Claire pulled Emma outside. the cool air a relief after the crowded gallery. They stood under a streetlight, the hum of the city wrapping around them. Claire held a small box, her hands trembling slightly. "I've been waiting for the right moment," she said, her voice soft. "But I don't want to wait anymore." Emma's breath caught as Claire opened the box, revealing a simple silver ring, its surface etched with tiny stars. "It's not a proposal," Claire said quickly, her cheeks flushing. "Not yet. It's a promise. That I'm yours, Emma. Through the chaos, the fights, all of it. You're my forever." Tears stung Emma's eyes as she slipped the ring onto her finger, the metal cool against her skin. "You're mine too," she whispered and pulled Claire into a kiss, the kind that drowned out the world. The city sang around them, car horns, laughter, the distant clang of a cable car, but all Emma heard was Claire's heartbeat, steady and true. They'd started with a mistake, a wrong table in a crowded cafe, but it had led them here. Two women, flawed and fearless, building a life from the ashes of fear. Emma looked at Claire, her green eyes glowing under the streetlight, and knew. This was no fairy tale. It was better.